So you've had a long day, and after your long day, you have decided to go home, lay on the couch, and watch your favorite TV show. But as your favorite TV show is on, you of course pick up your phone and you start to scroll, and you see this beautiful coffee table. You think to yourself, this coffee table would be perfect in my living room, and it especially would be perfect for entertaining guests. You think about how you haven't seen your friends in a couple of months, and you think to yourself, this would be a perfect piece that I can bring into my home and invite my friends over, and we can all catch up. So you buy the coffee table. The coffee table comes in, and it's been sitting in your house for about 2 months. Still haven't invited your friends over. You haven't even had time to set up the coffee table. And so now it's just sitting in your office waiting to be assembled. And you're back on your couch watching Netflix, scrolling on your phone. The cycle continues. And this is the cycle of emotional spending. The thing about emotional spending is that it is way more common than we actually think it is. And many times we don't even realize that we're doing it. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how to recognize emotional spending, why it happens, and how to add some practical steps into our life so that we can break the habit. But if this is your first video, hi, I'm Alaina, and this is The Organized Money, where we talk about how to plan your life and manage your money. If you have some bad spending habits, if you are spending money when you are emotional, when you're really sad, when you're really happy, the very first thing that you have to do is recognize the root cause. Understanding why you are spending money the way that you are spending money is definitely going to be the first step to help you to recognize your triggers and to stop them when you know they are happening. Emotional spending can be triggered by boredom, by sadness, by celebration, and even stress. And most of us will feel that emotion first, and then we will try and run from that emotion or fix that emotion by spending money. So when we're spending money, we feel like it is about that particular item, but it's actually not about the item at all. It is about the feeling that we are trying to escape. We're trying to escape a feeling of sadness, boredom, or stress, or we're trying to elevate a feeling like celebration. We're trying to celebrate even more and get more of a dopamine rush from whatever event happened. Now, money is always going to be emotional. 90% of the decisions that we make on a consistent basis are emotional decisions. And once we recognize that 90% of the decisions that we make are emotional, then we can start to pay attention more to our emotions. Even when you're paying bills, you may think to yourself, it's not an emotional decision when you're paying your mortgage or paying your rent, but actually it is, because it is tied to the sense of safety, and we all need to feel safe. Hence, we will pay our bills. And this is why recognizing that we have these emotions and that it is tied to the way that we spend money is the very first step to this process. Because if you believe that every decision that you make is a logical one, then it is going to be hard for us to actually pinpoint the emotions that are causing you to spend money. So the first thing that I would like you to do is to think about your last 10 transactions. If you cannot remember them, pull up your bank statement and think about what you were feeling when you were making those purchases. If you were purchasing food, then it may have been tied to a need because you were hungry. It also could have been tied to a social aspect if you were going out to eat with friends. So don't think about the transaction itself, go a little bit deeper. Why did you make this purchase? And the more you do this, the more you will start to recognize patterns. More of your transactions will be tied to a particular feeling. And this brings me to step number 2, which is to identify your triggers. So like I said, we are looking at our transactions and we're trying to identify what emotions are constantly coming up within our bank transaction. I like to use my expense tracker when I am tracking different transactions. And so I will write down the transaction and then I will think about what I was feeling at that moment. And then I might add that particular feeling next to the transaction so I can see how often it comes up. Now, this definitely takes a little bit of practice because sometimes you genuinely may not feel like you are feeling anything. And this is why we have to go a little bit deeper. Do I just want this particular item? Well, why do I want it? What do I think it's going to do for me? And think about all of your options, even if it includes options that you may not necessarily like. I know in the past I have linked some of my transactions to loneliness, to social media, or even comparison. But once you start to know your triggers, then you can start to interrupt the trigger before you spend. And being intentional and focusing and really paying attention to how you're spending your money is definitely going to help you in this process. So make sure that you write them all down, keep a journal, put it in your budget planner. Just do what you have to do to start to pay attention to the emotion that is tied to the transaction. The third step in this process is to create a pause routine. Now, a pause routine seems super simple, but when I tell you it has been transformative in my spending journey, having a moment to stop and to think about what I am going to spend, why I'm going to spend it, to make sure that I should actually spend the money has been monumental to stopping me from spending too much money. So let's talk about some of the rules that I have within my pause routine. The first one is my 24-hour rule. I will always implement a 24-hour rule on any impulse purchases. So if this purchase is not planned in my budget and it is not for an immediate need or something that I just happen to forget about, then I will pause. I will stop for 24 hours and I am going to think about it. Now, sometimes things come up. Like I remember I had a friend's wedding that I completely forgot about and I had to purchase a gift. That is different because that was for a particular need for a particular event. But many times I would just see something and I would just want it, and creating a pause routine where I made myself wait 24 hours really helped me to sit with the feeling and see if I actually needed that item. And many times after 24 hours, I completely changed my mind. The second thing that I have in my pause routine is a do this instead list. Your do this instead list is a list of things that you can do that are absolutely free when you are feeling a particular emotion. So if I'm feeling stressed, on my do this instead list, I will have go for a walk, pull out my planner and start planning something, color in my coloring book, or even journal. If I'm feeling lonely, I might ask my husband to go on a picnic or get on the phone with a friend and just talk. But having a do this instead list can save you so much money because it gives you a bunch of ideas of different free things that you can do instead of scrolling, shopping, or going to the mall. And many times when I end up doing one of these free things, I end up feeling so much better and I am happier because I did not spend the money. And the third thing that I will do within my pause routine is keep a want list. My want list is a list of all of the things that I believe that I absolutely want. It's a list of the impulse purchases that I wanted to buy that I might be within my 24-hour rule and told myself that I could not buy, or something that I saw when I was scrolling, or just a bunch of random things that have come to my mind that I believe that I want to purchase. Writing all of these things down helps me to evaluate it later on. I might even add some of those things within my budget and plan to actually purchase them, but many times they will just stay on this list and then later on I will scratch them off because I have decided that I don't want it anymore. But keep a list of all of the things that you think you want. It really helps to reflect back on them, to think about why you want them, and to evaluate the feeling that is making you feel like you need this thing within your life. The goal here is to give yourself an alternative outlet rather than purchasing the item immediately. So when do I do what within my pause routine? It really depends on what is currently going on and what has just happened. If I am feeling a feeling, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling sad, I am feeling anxious, then I will immediately pull out my do this instead list and look at something that I could possibly do for free before I pick up my phone. But if I am in the store and I see something immediately that I want, then I will automatically do my 24-hour rule and walk away from the item. And then later on, I will add that particular item to my want list. But doing these three things in rotation helps me to pause, helps me to pay more attention to what I am spending and how I am feeling when I am about to spend money. The fourth step in this process is to create a joy fund. Whether you call it a joy fund or fun money, you just want some extra money that you can use just to treat yourself and just to splurge every now and then. So every single time I get paid, I will add a little bit of money into my fun money. Whether it is $50 or $25, that money is there purely for me to have fun. It is not allocated to anything in particular, and I can stack it up for something else that I want later on, or I could spend it now on something small and fun that I want to do. And the reason why you want to do this is because things are going to come up. Every now and then you are are going to want to do something fun and spontaneous, and you aren't going to want to have to plan every single detail. So having some money set aside that is for miscellaneous, for fun, just to go out and splurge, means that you will be able to do that guilt-free. And that is the goal. It is not the goal to stop treating yourself or to not have fun with your money. We just want to be intentional with the money that you set aside for your fun. We don't want you to be impulsive, and we don't want you to spend too much and get yourself in financial trouble. So set aside some money, even if it's $5 every single time you get paid. Put aside something that goes strictly for fun, strictly for miscellaneous, for a splurge, so that when that time comes and something comes up and you really want to do it, you have the money set aside for it. And the fifth thing that you need to do in this process is to set up a supportive system. Now, yes, your support system could be family, it could be friends, it could be a community of people that you connected with and that could help you on your financial journey, or your support system could definitely be a planner. I love using my planner, my trackers as accountability tools that keep me in line with my money. And I will use my planner in order to check in and see where I am. I'm going to evaluate my progress. I will compare last month to the current month. How am I doing with my savings? How am I doing with my debt reduction? How am I feeling overall with my money? How is my spending? Looking at my last transactions, did I do well? What emotions were tied to those transactions? Am I on track, or do I need to make some adjustments? And I have a set routine, a set time that I am consistently looking at my money. So I will look at it daily around 7:30 a.m. from 7:30 to about 7:45. I will also look at it weekly on Fridays, and I will also look at it monthly, the last week before every single month begins. But keeping this routine of having a daily, weekly, and a monthly time that I am consistently reviewing my money, reviewing my budget, my savings, my debt reduction, and my spending, it definitely keeps me accountable and helps me to stay on top of my money overall. It is a supportive system that really keeps me on track. So whether you are using an Excel spreadsheet, whether you're using an app or a planner like me, you just want to have some type of system that helps you to stay on top of everything. And many times people will get away from tracking and staying on top of their money because they will feel bad about how they're actually spending their money. But remember, this is not about control. This is all about compassion. You have to give yourself a lot of grace in this process. You have to understand that you are consistently learning, but you still have to pay attention to the numbers. You still have to look at them, because ignoring them is not the answer. This is all about progress. It is not about perfection. So make sure that you give yourself grace, but make sure that you keep showing up. Show up for your money, even if you don't like what you see, because the more you show up, the more you're going to change it. So if you've made it this far in the video, I would love for you to drop me a comment and let me know. Put "I've got this" in the comments below and ask any questions that you may have about emotional spending. Remember, we are in this together, and I will see you all in my next video. Until then, keep organizing your life so that you can achieve your dreams. Bye, guys.